Conversations with God, which are alien and he didn't know, by Neale Walsh. Book 3, trilogy. Book 3, chapter 19. What are the beings like on other planets physically? Take your pick. There are many varieties of beings as there are species of life on your planet. Actually, even more out there. Are there beings who look very much like us? Are there beings who look very much like us? Of course, some look exactly like you, given minor variations. What they mean is that those who looks like us is not this one, not a human like that, but a humanoid like this one on the right. Okay, like those one, they mean this one is humanoids for them. Not exactly, it's not exactly a human. No. Human, I still believe, is from Earth. It's not those humans, but the others here on the center are gray. This is what they mean. Humans has been taken from here, the DNA, and constructed the other side. How do they live? What do they eat? How are they dressed? In what way do they communicate? I want to learn all about it here. Come on, out with it. I understand your curiosity. Chet, these books are not to be given to you to satisfy curiosity. The purpose of our conversation is to bring a message to your world. Just a few questions, and they are more than curiosities. We may have something to learn here, or more accurately, to remember, because we are here to remember, not to learn anything. That it really is more accurate for you. Have nothing to learn, but merely to remember who you really are. You made that wonderfully clear in Book 1. Do these beings on other planets remember who they are? As you might expect, all beings elsewhere are in various stages of evolution. But in what you have here termed highly evolved cultures, yes, the beings have remembered. How do they live, work, travel, communicate, etc.? Travel, as you know it in your culture, does not exist in highly evolved societies. Technology has advanced far beyond the necessity of using fossil fuels to drive engines embedded in huge machines that move bodies around. In addition to what has been provided by new physical technologies, understandings of the mind and of the very nature of physicality itself have also advanced. As a result of the combination of these two types of evolutionary advances, it has become possible for HEBs, or highly evolved beings, to disassemble and reassemble their bodies at will. No wonder they appear and can just disappear at will, allowing most beings and most highly evolved cultures to be wherever they choose, whenever they choose. Yeah, good for you, not for us. And when we die, we are quickly sent back so as not to enjoy all those those privileges, including light years across the universe. Yes, in most cases, yes. Such long distance travel across galaxy is done like a stone skipping across water. No attempt is made to go through the matrix which is the universe, but rather to skip around on it. That's the best imagery which can be found in your language to explain the physics of it. As for what you call in your society work, such a concept does not exist in most HEB cultures. That's what they want to be called, and not aliens, but HEB. Tasks are performed and activities are undertaken based purely on what a being loves to do and sees as the highest expression of self. That's super if one can do it, but how does the menial labor get done? The concept of menial labor does not exist. How nice, and while we here like slave, have to work like a fool, like a slave. Menial work, I mean, real menial have work, physical one. So, the concept of menial labor does not exist. What you would label as menial in your society is often the most highly honored in the world of highly evolved beings. HMBs who do the daily task that must be done for society to exist and to function are the most highly rewarded, highly decorated workers. While here, the less the worker status are, the blue collar worker, the less they get, the less pay they get, and also most humiliated and abused they are. How backward some societies here are. I mean, especially in certain continent of this universe, in the service of all. I put the word workers in quotes here because to a HB, this is not considered work at all, but the highest form of self-fulfillment. Yeah, and they don't even work like us here, like construction workers, cleaners, any kind of physical job. They don't work as much as we do because they have machinery, they have technology, so just they slack a lot and they have a good life compared to us. That's the truth. The ideas and experiences that humans have created around self-expression, which you have called work, are simply not part of the HEB culture. The HEB culture. Drudgery, overtime, pressure, 9 hours, 10 hours in certain continent, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14. That's slavery. Drudgery, overtime, pressure, and similar self-created experiences are not chosen by high-level beings who, among other things, are not attempting to get ahead, rise to the top, or be successful, and even step on each other's head to get on top, to climb up the ladder of success. The very concept of success as you have defined it is foreign to a HGB, to a high level of beings, precisely because its opposite, failure, it does not exist. Then how do high level of beings ever have an experience of accomplishment or achievement? They just have to be what? Not through the construction of an elaborate value system surrounding competition, winning and losing, as it is done in most human societies and activities, even and especially in your schools, but rather through a deep understanding of what really value is in a society and a true appreciation for it. Achieving is defined as doing what brings value, not doing what brings fame and fortune, whether it is of value or not. Then Hades do have a value system. Oh yes, of course, but one very unlikely. Unlike most humans, Hades value that which produces benefit to all. So do we. Yes, but you define benefit so differently. You see greater benefit in throwing a little white sphere at a man with a bat, or take one's clothes off on a big silver screen, then in leading off spring to remember life's greatest truths, or sourcing a society's spiritual sustenance. So you honor and pay ball players and movie stars more than you do teachers and ministers. And this you have everything backward, given where you say that you want to go as a society. You have not developed very keen powers of observation. Hebes always see what so, and do what works. Human very often do not. Hebes do not honor those who teach or minister because it's morally right. They do so because it is what works, given where they choose for their society to go. Still, where there is a value structure, there must be haves and have-nots. So in have societies, it is the teachers who are rich and famous and the ball players who are poor. There are no have-nots in a have society. No one lives on the depths of degradation to which you have allowed many humans to fall. And no one dies of starvation as 400 children an hour and 3,000 people a day do on your planet. And there is no such thing as a life of quiet desperation as there is in human work cultures. No, in Heb society, there is no such thing as the destitute and the poor. How have they avoided that? How? By applying two basic principles. We are all one, there is enough. I still find it to understand. They are coming up like very arrogant, but they don't see how they were back there a few maybe million years ago. They were at war with each other. They were basically fighting one another for power and invading, colonizing galaxies and star systems and planets, etc. And they were not equal. They did not see each other as equal some time ago. So they must understand that we have just started. This Homo sapiens version 2 has just started living here. Okay, so there has not been much lifespan for us to go that far and to evolve as they have, because they have been there in this part earlier and far longer than we humans did. So they cannot be so arrogant. They must understand where they were before they are now. The sign of the true master is that when they are on top, they will not look down of those who are below them. That's the sign of a true master. How they have avoided that? How? Okay, there is enough. Hebes having an awareness of sufficiency and a consciousness that creates it. Though the Heb consciousness of the interrelatedness of all things, nothing is wasted or destroyed of the natural resources of a Heb's home planet. This leaves plenty for everyone, hence there is enough. The human consciousness of insufficiency, of not enoughness, is the root cause of all worry, all pressure, all competition, all jealousy, all anger, all conflict, and ultimately all killing on your planet. That's true. And who caused all this in the first place? Who did all this? Who construct all this genesis of misery in this planet in the first place? This plus the human insistence on believing in the separation rather than the unity of all things is what has created 90% of the misery in your lives, the sadness in your history, and the impotency of your previous efforts to make things better for everyone. If you would change these two elements of your consciousness, everything would shift. How? I want to do that, but I don't know how. Give me a tool, not just platitudes. Good, that's fair. So here's a tool. Act as if. Act as if you were all one. Just start acting that way tomorrow. See everyone as you, just having a difficult time. See everyone as you, just wanting a fair chance. See everyone as you, just having a different experience. That's correct. Try it. Just go around tomorrow and try it. See everyone through new eyes. And also be empathic and put yourself into other shoes. Then start acting as if there is enough. If you had enough money, enough love, enough time, what would you do differently? Would you share more openly, freely, equitably? That's interesting because we are doing exactly that with natural resources and have been criticized by ecologists for it. I mean, we are acting as if there is enough. What's really interesting is that you act as if the things which you think benefit you are in short supply. So you watch your supply of that very carefully, often even holding those things. Chat, you play fast and loose with your environment, natural resources and ecology. So it can only be assumed that you do not think the environment, natural resources, and your ecology benefits you, or that we are acting as if there is enough. But you aren't. If you were, you would share these resources more equitably. Chat, right now, 1/5 of the world's people are using 4/5 of the world's resources, and you show no signs of changing that equation. That's true. There is enough for everybody. If you would stop thoughtlessly squandering all of it on the privileged few. If all people use their resources wisely, you would use less than you do if a few people use them unwisely. Use the resources, but don't abuse the resources. That's all the ecologists are saying. Well, I'm depressed again. You keep making me depressed because you don't want to hear the truth, dude. That's simple as that. That's the truth. But you find it so hard to accept the truth because you always have been fooled with the delusion that you see around you, what you have created in your mind. You are something, you know that. You are driving down a lonely road, lost and having forgotten how to get where you say you want to go. Someone comes along and gives you directions. Eureka! You are ecstatic, right? No, you are depressed. Amazing. Indeed, that's human for you. I'm depressed because I don't see us taking these directions. I don't see us even wanting to. I see us marching right into a wall, and yes, it depresses me. Oh, that's another thing. You are not in use your powers of observation. I see hundreds of thousands of people cheering as they read this. I see millions recognizing the simple truths here, and I see a new force for change growing in intensity on your planet. Entire thought systems are being discarded. Ways of governing yourselves are being abandoned. Economic policies are being revised. Spiritual truths are being re-examined. Yours are this awakening. The noticement and observation on these pages need not be a source of discouragement. That you recognize them as a truth can be tremendously encouraging if you allow this to be the fuel that drives the engine of change. You are the change agent. You are the one who can make a difference in how humans create and experience their lives. How? What can I do? At least try to pass the information. Be the difference, be the transformer, not the follower. Be the difference, be the change exactly. Embody the consciousness of we are all one, and that is enough. Change yourself, change the world. You have given yourself this book and all the conversations with the God material so that you might remember once again how it was to live as highly evolved beings. We lived this way once before, didn't we? Yes, we did, until some aliens come in and kind of screw it. You mentioned earlier that you had lived like this once before. Yes, in what you would call ancient times and ancient civilizations. Most of what I have been describing here has been experienced by your race before. Now a part of me wants to be even more depressed. You mean we got there and then lost it all? Yeah, thanks to aliens. What's the point of all this going around in circles that we are doing? Evolution is not a straight line. You have a chance now to recreate the best experiences of your ancient civilizations while avoiding the worst. You don't have to let personal egos and advanced technology destroy your society this time. You can do it differently. You can make a difference that could be very exciting to you if you allow it to be. Okay, I got it. And when I allow myself to think of it that way, I am excited and will make a difference. Tell me more. I want to remember as much as I can about how it was with us in the past, in our advanced and ancient civilizations, and how it is today with all highly evolved beings. How do they live? They live in clusters, or what your world would call communities, but for the most part, they have abandoned their versions of what you call cities or nations. They did, really. I find it hard to believe, but maybe their cities were the past, is it? Why? Because cities are a sponge that sucks all the iniquities, so said Jesus. Because cities became too big and no longer supported the purpose of clustering, but worked against that purpose. They produced crowded individuals instead of a clustered community. It is the same on this planet. There is more of a sense of community in our small towns and villages, even in our wide open rural areas, than there is in most of our big cities. Yes, there is only one difference on that score. between your world and the other planets we are now discussing, which is the inhabitants of those other planets have learned this. They have observed more closely what works. Well, we did those too, and some of you still do. Some people do look out for one another in some countries, in some communities. So it's not all lost. But sadly, the majority does not work or behave this way. We, on the other hand, keep creating larger and larger cities, even though we see that they are destroying our very way of life. Yes, thanks to some alien series, we even take pride in our rankings. A metropolitan area moves up from number 12 to number 10 in our list of biggest cities, and everyone thinks there's a cause for celebration. Chambers of commerce actually advertise it. It's the mark of a primitive society to view regression as progress. Exactly my point. Exactly. I always like communities in small towns. Always. In fact, I have been raised not in the countryside, but in a very remote place, very nice, where everybody look out for each other. In the funeral, everybody will gather to follow their their neighbors in the same road and community. You have said that before. You are getting me depressed again. More and more of you are no longer doing this. More and more of you are recreating small intended communities. So, do you think we should abandon our mega cities and return to our towns and villages? I don't have a preference about it one way or the other. I'm simply making an observation. As always, so what is your observation regarding why we continue to migrate to bigger and bigger cities, even though we see that it's not good for us? Because many of you do not see that it's not good for you. You believe that grouping together in large cities solves problems, when it only creates them. It is true that in large cities there are services, there are jobs, there are entertainments which are not and cannot be found in smaller towns and villages. But your mistake is in calling these things valuable, when in fact they are detrimental. I mean, the young prefer cities, the older one prefer small communities and small towns. You do have a point of view on this. You just gave yourself away. You said we made a mistake. If you are headed towards San Jose, here we go again. Well, you insist on calling observations judgments and statements of fact preferences, and I know you are seeking great accuracy in your communications and in your perceptions, so I'm going to call you on this every time. If you are headed towards San Jose, all the while say you wish to go to Seattle, is it wrong for the bystander or whom you are asking direction to say that you have made a mistake? Is the bystander expressing a preference? I guess not. You guess not? Okay, he's not. Then what he's doing? He's merely saying what's so given where we say we want to go. Excellent. You've got it. But you've made this point before repeatedly. Why do I keep reversing to an idea about you as having preferences and judgments? Because that's the God who is supported by your mythology, and you will throw me into that category anytime you can. Besides, if I did have a preference, that would make everything easier for you. Then you wouldn't have to figure things out and come to your own conclusions. You just have to do as I say. Of course, you have no way of knowing what it is that I say, since you don't believe I said anything for thousands of years, so you have no choice but to rely on those who claim to be teaching what I used to say during the days when I was actually communicating. But even this is a problem because there are many different teachers and teachings, and there are hairs on your head. So you are right back where you started from, having to come to your own conclusions. Is there a way out of this maze and the cycle of misery it has created for the human race? Will we ever get it right? There is a way out, and you will get it right. You merely have to increase your observational skills. You have to better see what serves you. This is called evolution. Actually, you cannot not get it right. You cannot fail. It's merely a question of when, not of whether. But aren't we running out of time on this planet? Oh, if that's your parameter, if you want to get it right on this planet, there is. While this particular planet still supports you, then within that context, you'd better hurry. How can you go faster? Help us! I'm helping you. What do you suppose this dialogue is about? Okay, so give us some more help. You said a little bit ago that in highly evolved cultures on other planets, beings also abandoned the concept of nations. Why did they do that? Because they saw that the concept such as what you would call nationalism works against their first guiding principle. We are all one. On the other hand, nationalism supports our second guiding principle, survival of the fittest. Exactly. You separate yourself into nations for reasons of survival and security and produce just the opposite. Highly evolved beings refuse to join together in nations. They believe in simply one nation. You might even say they have formed one nation under God. Clever, but do they have liberty and justice for all? Do you? Well, but in this context, humanism is more backward, and you all are vice, if you cannot compare. Touché. The point is that all races and species are evolving. In the evolution, the purpose of observing what serves you and making behavioral adaptations seems to keep moving in one direction and away from another. It keeps moving towards unity and away from separation. This is not surprising, since unity is the ultimate truth, and evolution is just another word for movement toward truth. I also noticed that observing what serves you and making behavioral adaptations sounds so suspiciously like survival of the fittest, one of our guiding principles. It doesn't it? So now it's time to observe that survival of the fittest, that is, evolution of the species, is not achieved, but indeed the entire species had been doomed, have actually self-destructed by calling a process a principle. Oops, you lost me. The process is called evolution. The principle which guides the process is what directs the course of your evolution. You are right. Evolution is survival of the fittest. That's the process. Chat, do not confuse process and principle. If evolution and survival of the fittest are synonymous, if you are claiming survival of the fittest as a guiding principle, then you are saying a guiding principle of evolution is evolution. Yet, that's the statement of a race which does not know that it can control the course of its own evolution. That's the statement of a species which thinks itself to be relegated to the status of observer of its own evolution. Because most people think that evolution is a process which is simply going on, not a process which they are directing according to certain principles. And so the species are announcing we evolve by the principle of, evolution, but they never say what that principle is because they have confused the process and the principle. The species, on the other hand, which has become clear that evolution is a process, but a process over which the species has control, has not confused the process with principle, but consciously chooses a principle which it uses to guide and direct its process. This is called conscious evolution, and your species has just arrived there. Wow, that's incredible insight. That's why you gave Barbara March Hubbard that book. As I said, she actually called it conscious evolution. Of course she did. I told her to. I love it. So I'd like to get back to our conversation about it is. How do these highly evolved beings organize themselves, if not in nations? How do they govern themselves? They do not use evolution as their first guiding principle of evolution, but rather they have created a principle based on pure observation. Yes, by observing that we are guided and we learn. They have simply observed that they are all one, and they have devised the political, social, economic, and spiritual mechanisms which undergird rather than undermine that first principle. What does that look like in government, for instance? When there is only one of you, how do you govern yourself? Come again? When you are the only one there, how do you govern your behavior? Who governs your behavior? Who outside of yourself? No one. When I'm all alone, if I were on a deserted island, some place for instance, no one outside of myself would govern or control my behaviors. I would eat, dress, do exactly as I want. I would probably not dress at all. I would eat whenever I was hungry and whatever felt good and made me feel healthy. I would do whatever I felt like doing, and some of that would be determined by what I thought I needed to do to survive. Well, as usual, you have all the wisdom within you. I've told you before, you have nothing to learn, you have only to remember. This is how it is in advanced civilizations. They run around naked, picking berries and carving canoes. Those sound like barbarians. Who do you think is happier and closer to God? Who do you think is happy and close to God? We've been through this before. Yes, we have. It's the mark of a primitive culture to imagine that simplicity is barbarian and complexity is highly advanced. Correct. Very, very correct. Interestingly, Those who are highly advised see it as being just the other way around. Chat, the movement of our cultures, indeed the process of evolution itself, is toward higher and higher degrees of complexity. In one sense, yes, Chat, he is the greatest divine dichotomy or dichotomy. The greatest complexity is the greatest simplicity. The more complex a system is, the more simple is the design. Indeed, it is utterly elegant in its simplicity. The master understands this. That's why a highly evolved being's lives in utter simplicity. Lives in utter simplicity. It is why all highly evolved systems are also utterly simple. Highly evolved systems of governance, highly evolved systems of education, highly evolved systems of economics or religion, all are utterly elegantly simple. Highly evolved systems of governance, for instance, evolve virtually non-governance at all, save self-governance. As if there was only one being participating, as if there was only one being affected, which is all there is, which highly evolved cultures understand precisely. I'm starting to put it all together now. Good, we have not much time left. You have to go. This book is getting very long. Okay, that's for chapter 19 of this book. Stay tuned for the last chapter.